Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to week 7 of learning from home, which is crazy. Or if you're like me, the 7th week in a row of elastic waisted pants. If you have actually put on jeans during this time, you are a better person than I am, because I have no intention of doing that until September. Anyway, okay, so this week we're going to build off of last week's lesson. So last week we talked about the nutrients and focusing on the role that those nutrients play in our body. So just as a quick recap, the macronutrients, those are kind of the big nutrients that we need the most of. And those are the 3 that provide energy. Those are carbs, proteins, and fats. Okay, we want to know that a healthy, balanced diet contains all 3 of those, obviously in different amounts for each nutrient, but never should we be following a diet. And when I say diet, I mean like long-term pattern of eating, not necessarily like something you're doing to lose weight, but a long-term pattern of eating. Never should we be following a diet or have a diet that eliminates one of those macronutrients, because we absolutely need those in order to be healthy. And then the 3 micronutrients to round out our 6 nutrients are vitamins, minerals, and water. And those, rather than provide energy, the micronutrients create chemical reactions in the body that help the macronutrients be used for energy. So you should have filled in that worksheet last week. If you have any questions, of course, you can always ask, but we're going to build on that this week, and we're going to be thinking about dietary guidelines. So when I say the term dietary guidelines, basically we're just thinking about a pretty loose kind of rule of thumb, or just some guidelines that we can follow when we think about making our eating choices. All right. Oops, got a text message there. Okay. So what we want to keep in mind is that really any diet that you hear about, whether it's like some of the kind of trendy diets right now might be like keto or low carb or gluten-free, vegetarian, whatever, any of those diets you hear about, they're essentially dietary guidelines. They're just kind of rules or recommendations for you to follow. Obviously, some are better than others, but they're just guidelines that we can follow. So we're going to start really basic this week, and we're going to be looking at the My Plate model. This is the set of dietary guidelines put out by the USDA or our government, and they were designed with kind of somebody with the most basic information or basic knowledge of nutrition in mind. So this is like 101 for nutrition. So you'll see on your assignment this week, you're going to be investigating sorry kids, you're going to be investigating the choosemyplate.gov website and seeing what it has to say about dietary guidelines. All right, so there are some questions there, and that's part 1 of your assignment. The last question of part 1 is going to ask you to think about what some of the challenges or downfalls might be with this model. So while it's a good start, it's not going to work for everybody, right? So for example, you'll notice like one of the categories on the Choose My Plate model is dairy, and it recommends that we should get 3 cups of dairy a day. That's great for a lot of people, but like for me, for example, I'm allergic to dairy. And if I were to eat 3 cups of straight up dairy a day, whether it's milk, yogurt, whatever, I would not be in a happy place, right? And so that wouldn't necessarily work for me. But what I know is, okay, that dairy category wants me to get calcium, right? I can get calcium in a lot of other ways. So I would think about that. But it's not perfect for everybody. So that last question of part 1 is going to ask you to think outside the box a little bit and think about what some of the challenges with this model might be. And then on part 2, you are going to take the information that you read about the My Plate model, and then I'm just looking at it here as we go. And then there are also 2 new articles that are linked. You can skim these. Reading them is best, but skimming them is totally fine. And you are going to use the information there to put together at least five personalized dietary guidelines that you could follow, right? So now we're thinking about taking kind of the big lens of what some dietary guidelines might be, and then we're going to zoom in and think about your own eating habits or your own needs specifically. And again, you're going to write 5 dietary guidelines that would be good for you to follow, and then also provide an explanation of why you wrote that guideline. So I provided an example in the paper here that I put together. And for example, one of the example I wrote was that I'm going to drink 20 ounces of water before I sit down to eat each meal. And I'm actually doing this. I have my cup here, it's 20-ounce cup. And I put as my explanation in that I'm not very good about drinking regular water throughout the day. I drink like lots of soda water, but I'm not always great about getting enough water. So by drinking water before I sit down to eat each meal, I will increase my overall water intake for the day, and it will help me not feel like I'm starving when I sit down to eat a meal. I'll have kind of a better gauge of like how actually hungry I am versus how thirsty I am. Okay, so you're going to think about, again, your own needs, and you're going to write those there. Okay, some other things might be maybe you're not getting enough fruits and veggies, right? Think about a guideline about how you could do that. If you follow maybe a vegetarian diet, right? Maybe looking at, is my diet plant-based, or should I cut out some other things to make sure I'm getting healthier foods? Anything like that would be great. But again, just think about your own eating habits. All right. So that's the plan for the week. I'm also going to be posting a little bit about grades. You'll see in Skyward that I have been entering grades, the work that we have. Your baseline grade will not change. However, what I'll update this week for you and I'll post in Classroom is how I am going to grade you if you are hoping to raise your grade 1 or a max of 2 letter grades during this time. So more information to come on that. Hope you guys have a great week. It's weird not seeing you. Talk to you later. Bye.